Okay, good morning, good morning. Let me know if you can see and hear okay. It's quite muggy here this morning, so I have a fan on. Let me know if it's too noisy in the background. And somehow it's Friday. Like, where did the week go? I don't understand. I'm pretty sure somebody's pinching some hours out of each day on me. Maybe a day or two out of each week. Hi Nicola. Oh, that's good. I'm pleased. Everything seems to be working okay. I think I've got the system down pat now as far as getting the stream going. Notwithstanding any technological blips that may happen, but how are you this morning? You done okay? Or this evening for you? I'm excited to start on this girl again. I have to get my head in the barn owl mode. I think that what we'll do today is, I tend to work from the left side and across, just so I'm not dragging my hand across, but I think that it'd be nice for us to continue on with the head here. So I'm thinking that that's what we'll do. We'll come up and do, we might start with this eye, I think, and then fill out the face all around there. Okay. So the Coel is still outside singing his song. I was going to have the window open, but he's being super loud this morning, so window is closed. There's a whole bunch of baby galahs out there as well, so that's another reason I haven't got the window open. You'd be subjected to all of those not entirely pretty sounds of baby galahs getting fed. And it's actually quite... It's muggy. It's muggy. Summer is totally on the way. But we're supposed to get thunderstorms today, and there's been a little bit of rain, which is probably only adding to the mugginess, actually. So I'm going to start with... Yeah, I think I'm going to start with cold grey one. Got my paper for my hand, and I just want to get down some of the... Although this part here is very warm, so I'm going to have both warm and cold grey number one on hand, and I just want to lay some value down around the outside of this eye, and I've kind of put some of the markings down for where there is some particularly dark shadow. It's really pinky sort of shadow in there. So I'm just going to lay the cold grey down around that. It's always nice to start a morning off with an eye, I think. It's just about taking your time. And then I'm going to switch to warm grey one and go this way on this side. There's a couple of little feathers that come into the eye there, but what we might do is put a layer of cold grey down and use the slice tool if we want to do that, if we want to go in there. It just depends. It may not be necessary. It may not help the narrative, the story of our little bird. I know we haven't actually finished, haven't finished off this side here either. It's quite a cool blue. There's a yellowish tone to the whole photo, and I've actually pulled a little bit of that yellow out because it was too much for me. So the photo that you've got is just a little yellow reduced. So it's quite a bluish tone in the eye here. So I'm actually going to lay down It looks like I'm having some internet issues. So hopefully it will come back on. So I'm going to lay down some cold grey one in here as well. I'm not going to go all the way to the outside there because I want to use a dark sepia there. And I'm going to come in. Okay, so the connection looks like it's come back again. Hi Louise, how you doing it? You just made it, yeah. Well, I just had a little internet blip and it seems to be working okay again now, so hopefully it stays that way. I was saying before, Louise, that it's starting to get really warm here. It's really muggy out today. Has it warmed up over there as well? I am so not looking forward to summer. I dread it. It's just too hot for me. At least in the cool weather you can always warm up. I just find it really hard to get cool in summer. Okay, so we've got some cold grey around the outside, we've got a little bit of warm grey in the middle here. I've just gone in with a little bit of cold grey into the sort of lighter iris part of her wee eye. And now I'm going to grab two of my favourites, so dark indigo. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you're having some me time. I think we all need that. And we don't prioritise it anywhere near enough. And are you back to cool? Will you just send a little bit over this way, would you, please? From now until like March, April, I don't sleep well in the heat at all. Right, so I've got some dark indigo, which I'm going to come in on the pupil over first. So I'm just really looking at my reference. And not only am I looking at my reference, but I'm also looking at the other eye because I want to make sure that they do actually work together. You don't want to have one that's doing something weird and doesn't look like it belongs with the other one. Now this is just the pupil. You're fully into autumn, and I'm very, very jealous of that. I'm seeing lots of beautiful autumn pictures coming out from Europe and North America, and it makes me extremely jealous. I mean, our indigenous trees here aren't deciduous anyway, or the majority of them aren't, so it's really only the imported species that we get any autumn colour from. So yeah, to see that in its native habitat is very nice indeed. Okay, I've got my tiny little stumpy dark sepia, and I'm going to look at the outline here. Give her a little bit of eyeliner. So you'd probably laugh if you saw my setup this morning. I've decided to try and use, there's a brand called Manfrotto, this great big strong arm that I use my DSLR on, adjustable arm that I use to hang the DSLR over the desk for recording tutorials. And I've managed to figure out how to secure the little webcam to it as well. But it means that it's right kind of where my forehead is. So I have this camera between my eyes. And it's fine, I can see around it really well, but I'm sure it doesn't look very... it doesn't look like what you would expect out of an artist's studio. And then we've got this lid that comes out quite a ways of the top here. Look how different her face looks already, with just a little bit of the eye put in. And then we'll go over the dark indigo as well. Now there's a little catch light up the top here. It's not very bright, but I'm going to leave that blue for now and just do little tiny circular motions over the top of the dark indigo with this dark sepia. Get this pupil nice and dark. And I don't know how much I want to do these little feathers that are sort of flicking into the eye there. I think I'm going to just do a little couple of marks and see what that looks like. Because I have put the cold grey one down, we can come in with the slice tool and put more feathery looks in there if we want to, but I just don't know if it needs to have it or not really. So we'll start on the side of small and go larger if we want to. Okay, so now this outer part of the eye is kind of bubbly, knobbly. So you want to have a nice sharp pencil to get some of these little details in. Oh, the coel's stopped. That's the first time he's been quiet this morning since about 5 o'clock. I also had a willy wagtail going crazy really early this morning. And it is looking rather dark out there, so perhaps we're going to get the storm earlier than expected. Right. I think that I've left too much room for the iris. I need to reduce that a little bit. Slow and steady, and just become absorbed in the process. It's such a gift, I think. Okay, now it is a bluey grey that's in that part of the iris, but it's not all one tone, so I want to add a little bit of a darker cold grey. So I've got cold grey 3 here, and I'm just going to add a little bit in this part here. And then up here. Just gives it a little bit more dimension. We might actually need to darken this area up just a little bit more. I might get some yeah, I think I'm going to get a little bit of walnut. Well, I'm not going to get a little bit. I'm going to get the whole pencil and put a little bit down. Just a smidge, which is a technical term. Haha. Up the top here. It's just a little bit of warmth in that. And then we do have a little bit of cinnamon coming in too, which we did here on this side as well, in this lid down the bottom here. I'm going to put a little bit of this warm walnut brown on the edge of the pupil here too. And every time you add a little bit more, you can see you need to add a little bit more. So it's just that process, isn't it, of letting yourself be absorbed in the minutiae. Got my coal, I might get coal grey too, I think. I was so good. I got all my greys together and sharpened them all for this morning. I've been working on a cormorant. That cold grey one is just a little too light there, so yeah, that's much better, much better. So I've pulled the cold grey 2 in over the top, which means that I need to darken up this area a little bit more. I'll try the 3, but I might want 4. I think I'm going to want 4. Yeah, I've been working on a cormorant which has used a lot of the darker cold as well as light cold greys, and a few little warm greys to throw in there as well. So they were all looking a little bit tired. Now I've done those 2 eyes, and I love that she's got 2 eyes now. But I feel like I want to darken the pupil on both of them. So I've got black, and I'm not pressing hard. I'm just sort of pushing that other colour. Oh, and I want to go over this bit a little bit too. Pushing that in, but I can see on this side that I want to darken up some of this area. So I'm going to come in with the black over the top of this eye that we've already done. Just in those really darkest areas. And it's all about context, isn't it? So, you know, once you've got other bits of information down, you can see that you may need to change other bits and pieces. And this is quite a difficult shadow reflection in this eye too, which makes it a bit hard to figure out exactly what's going on, but just that little darkening up helped, I think. I'm also thinking that I want to add a little bit more of the cool grey in that to match. I know it's a warmer colour. Well, let's do what we did with the other one. Let's get walnut and put a little bit of walnut around the edge. We can have a little bit of artistic license. And then I've got cold grey 3. Push that back a little bit too. And look, it's only a little thing, but I really feel like it matches this eye better now. I'm going to go back over the highlight up the top here with cold grey 3 and blend that in a bit. What do you think? I am grabbing cold grey 4 now, and I can see this is a little scratchy. I just want to even out this blue that I've got in here and make it look a little bit more liquid. So you want it to be really smooth. That's better. Look at that. Hello, little eye. Alright, well, let's put a little bit of the orange in. So I've got burnt ochre. I know, it's very exciting when you identify the pencil the first time on the pot. I find cold grey 3 and 4 really hard to tell apart until I pull them out, and warm grey 2 is okay because it looks completely different. I'll just pull it out so if you don't have polys, you can see I've got my warm grey is quite small, but I'll bring this back up because I can't see live here. Alright, okay, so whoops, let me go this way. So this is warm grey 1, warm grey 2, warm grey 3. So the tone on the barrel of this pencil is completely different. I don't know where, how, why that happened. That's 3. I'm just going to get 4 so I can... all my pencils are getting really small and they sit down in the cup that I've got, which makes it really difficult for me to find what I want. That's 5. I don't think I've got a 4 out. Well, that's not very good, is it? Just excuse me while I play with my pencils. Here. Okay. So we've got, I hope that you can see that in the light. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So these all really belong together. You can see that those, as far as the barrel of the pencil goes, they look fine. And then this filler is a little shoe-in. It actually looks more like a French grey or something. It's kind of got like a greeny tinge to it, so I can always pull out warm grey 2. That was a really long and winded way of me telling you that, which is good because it's one of those magic pencils that blends things together beautifully. So it's nice that that one's identified. But yeah, I do have trouble pulling the right cold grey between 3 and 4 out every time. I'm just looking at those 2 eyes again, and I think that I want to darken this a little bit. And this is just part of that process. It's just making, see, that feels so much better to me. It was only a little thing, but just go with your intuition. If it's telling you that it thinks it needs something, if your intuition is telling you you need to do something, then just go and do it. You can always pull it back up or do something around the outside of it if it doesn't really work. But you know, 9 times out of 10 that'll be right. Okay, now I started to get burnt umber out, didn't I? Burnt ochre out. Yes, right, that's where I was. Right. Burnt ochre. So that's that really lovely orangey tone, and I want to get a little bit of cinnamon. There's not this same bright yellow on this eye at all. So knowing that I've only got the base colour down in certain parts here, I don't want to go crazy. I'm just going to bring some of that orangey tone in. It's awfully quiet out there. I'm just wondering whether the sparrowhawk could come in. I don't hear any birds. And there's not a lot of orange tones on this side. It's mostly obscured by the 3/4 angle of the face. But it's much more a bright orange because it's in brighter light on this side of the face too. What have you got planned for today? Today's my day off from my muggle job, so I will be working on a piece for the Changeling Artists Collective auction, which will start on Monday. I'm running a bit behind actually on everything at the moment, so I'll go work on that. And it's my mum's 70th birthday on the 27th of this month, so we're having like a very small, because we can only have 20 people at the moment thanks to the old pandemic, very small sort of family gathering for her on the 20th, but then my brothers and I are taking her away for the weekend of the 27th, just locally, because again we can't really travel anywhere, although some of the borders have opened up a little bit, but yeah, to a beach house just to stay for 2 nights. So I've got some organising for the party to do. This pencil's not very sharp, but other than that I'm going to get stuck into this other piece. which is actually another barn owl. Shock, surprise, I know, right? Oops. But I've had this idea of a series. So I have cinnamon here of owls, oops, which is really crumbly apparently, of owls with holding keys. I mean, you've seen me do owls holding keys before. But they also have a keyhole on their chest. So they're essentially a portal, a passageway to somewhere exciting and unknown. So that was the cormorant I worked on for this week, which is finished. I might get up and pull it off and show you in a minute. And I'm going to do a similar sort of one on with a barn owl, but I'm going to do it on a paper that I haven't used before. So, you know, I'm telling you this, but whether it actually works out or not is another thing. It's a pastel matte paper. So the difference with the pastel matte is that it's not a smooth paper, it's not a watercolour paper. It has cellulose fibres that are essentially sprayed onto like a, it's almost like a plasticky, it's not plastic, it's paper, but it's a really smooth sort of plasticky back. And I've used it a couple of times before. I'm just not 100% confident in it yet. And I figure the only way that that's going to happen is if I continue to play with it. So that's what I'm going to be doing. But it's really new to me because it's a dark grey. It's called anthracite. And I'm kind of hoping that it will provide a different point of interest for me. I have a commission to do of another barn owl, a really large barn owl. And I'd really like for it to work on this dark grey. So I'm hoping that this little experiment will prove that that's going to work. Alright, let's have a little think about what's going to happen next. I'm going to get that really light pink and do a tiny little glazing over the top here. Once I put more in around, I can darken up shadows and stuff then, but it's quite pink in there. Alright, let's work on this little area here. I think let's try to think where my eye is being drawn to, because I thought the beak was finished, but again, you know, once we start adding other things in there. You like pastel matte? I've got the Clairefontaine one, and it's honestly, since I started doing coloured pencils, I hadn't even heard of it, to be honest, before. Like, I've had pastel paper, like the My Tints and stuff, but not pastel matte. Yeah, it's I don't know. I love on one hand how it takes the pigment really, really well. So whatever colour you put down is really vibrant, and it doesn't require as many layers. I like that you can layer light on top, so you can put the highlights on top. But I just don't know if I can get past the texture. I've got to continue to work on that a little bit, I think. Warm Grey 3, and I want to get some of these little feathery, shadowy bits in here. So yeah, I like the idea of it a lot. I don't have any experience with soft pastels at all. I've never had any. But I've watched a couple of artists do some amazing things with them. And I know that they can actually work as a really good like base layer to coloured pencils as well. So you can sort of come in to do the detail with coloured pencils afterwards. I think that soft pastels are a little bit more painterly, aren't they? I'm looking at where the shadowy aspects are, the shapes of the shadows. The way that the fur moves around. Fur. Feathers. fur feathers, covering, whatever. It's all the same. It's all the same. So the rest of the face is also good areas. We did a little bit with the Scotch Magic tape last week. I think that these sorts of areas are really good for a good use of that tool. So, you know, the areas where you can see there's quite light bits, you can pull out a little bit of pigment using that if you would like. Or use your, you know, finer erasers to do the same. Coming over on this side, darkening up the shadowy area here a little bit with some feathers that come down this way. I need to work on this a little bit more yet because I've kind of got a line where I finished off instead of continuing to pull it out. And it is a warm area, so I can continue with the warm greys here. Some galahs back out there now, so everything must be okay. Came home to a pile of dove feathers just outside the door yesterday, which is not very nice, but at least with the sparrowhawk there's rarely anything other than a pile of feathers left over. And I know that they're both coming in quite a bit, so I guess there's baby sparrowhawks too somewhere, which is nice. I'm sure the doves don't think it's very nice, but okay, I'm going to grab the tape. Was a good exfoliation tool. That's so true. Fabriano is mine. The tooth helps. Yeah. You can do more layers. I have read that as well. Yeah, I think I just need to play with it. So is it the Clairefontaine that you have too, Louise? Is that the brand, or have you got a different brand? I found it really hard. There's only one place in Australia that I could get it from. So I've got one grade 2, which is fine. I mean, I could. That's no trouble. At least there was somewhere I could get it from. But it's not, you know, like Fabriano paper I can get anywhere, really. I think that perhaps I wasn't laying enough layers down when I was using it, when I have used it before, because the graininess, although I laid as many layers down and you know, I may do between, you know, 5 and 20 layers on Fabriano sometimes too. But yeah, the tooth, I couldn't get past the tooth. But yeah, I think I just need to play with it a bit more, that's all. Because I can see how it would be a really good paper to use for colored pencil as well. Like, it makes sense to me intellectually. It's just, you know, part of that learning process, isn't it? Like, I didn't think I would ever use anything except for Bristol paper, and I hardly use it at all anymore. I'm going to get a bit of cold grey one. Fabriano Tiziano, that's another pastel, is it? Pastel matte, is it? I have to look that one up. I know that apparently there's a difference between pastel matte and pastel matte board. So the pastel matte that's in the the books, you know, they're sheets in a book that you pull off. They're held together by glue on the end, you know. Apparently the board that you purchase, you know, in board size, like sort of, well, A2, I guess, A2, A1 sort of size. From what I understand, the tooth on that is actually less, so it's less toothy. Less toothy? It's more gummy? I don't know. It's less toothy, apparently. But the issues around that are that the board is much stronger than the paper, so it tends to curl, so it's quite hard to keep flat unless you tape it down all around. And I've only got a really small room here too, so storage for me is hard for big pieces of paper like that. So if I was to buy a few, which, you know, you'd want to do because economically you need to, it's hard for me to find a place to store it. So I've got warm grey 1 again. I'm coming down here over the lower face, around the beak area here. There's a layer down. And I want to do a little bit more of this beak. So I've got cinnamon, because I can, again, it's just a matter of when you put things down around, you can see that you need to darken up other areas. So cinnamon, just to darken up some of this pink here. Is that fan too loud? It's not too loud, I hope. It's got I chose the quietest one I could. It's amazing how loud fans are when you're looking at them in consideration of filming and such. I chose the quietest one I could, but I can still, like, you can still hear it, obviously. Warm grey 2. The tip of this beak. Cold grey 1, it's a little bit bluish at the top here. And I want like a yellowy colour. I've got the yellow ochre, which I didn't sharpen. A little layer of that over the top of it. I'm going to darken up that a little, I think. I'm going to go warm grey 3. Just to get this, the tip of this beak right. And the back of the beak. That's a bit better. So Louise's saying before that it's me time. I've been thinking about and sort of working on a post about how this practice of creating, of making art, allows for presence, which, you know, is so something that we completely take for granted, as far as how important it is. I think we constantly live me too, constantly live in either the past or the future, like constantly thinking about what I need to do next, what I want out of things next. Oh, warm grey one. Planning for the future, all that sort of stuff. But you can't actually influence anything in the future. You can't change anything in the past. All you can do is be completely present. And you can work towards things for the future, but only in the present. You know, only what you're doing right now. Warm grade 2. So yeah, I was thinking about a presence, and this practice always makes me think about presence, because this is it's a really precious time to me when I create art. Everything else sort of falls away. I can be completely absorbed in the details of my subject, and part of my process is to try and be my subject in a way too, so I think about how things might feel to be on that subject. So for an owl, you know, how does it feel to have these little ruffy feathers around? How does it feel to have wings instead of arms, you know, like on your shoulders? What do feathers feel like, both for me if I reached out and touched? So I've got beige red here, the light pink, just going over that soft bit there. But also, how does it feel if you had feathers growing out of your skin? So these are the things I think about as I'm working. So I have burnt sienna here now, just darkening this a little bit as I'm working, which means that I have to be really present, because I'm focusing on my hand-eye coordination. I'm focusing on honouring whatever it is that I'm studying. And I also kind of feel like this is like making an offering to them as well, you know, which I guess honouring is, isn't it? Oh yeah, so anyway, I've been thinking about presence and about how, what a gift, you know, it is to not only create art, or whatever creativity you do. I have nougat here. But that it's a way to be present, to be completely yourself, to let go of everything else around you, to be in this moment in time completely. Even if it's only for a few minutes, you know, I think that that's such a treasure to have. And for me anyway, it's become a really important part of the practice of creating for me, but it's also a little bit addictive, because I think that, you know, it's like a coming home. It's a means of being completely true to yourself too. There's no pretense. And even if you're under a time, if you're under time pressure because you need to get a particular thing done, like a commission or whatever, I still think the opportunity to be present is just such a gift. And I kind of wrote a little bit about it on a Instagram post, but I want to expand on it. It's talking about how, for me, the little pauses between pencil strokes almost feel like the pause between an in and an out breath. You know, there's all that potentiality there. It does help the soul ease. It does still our mind. It does take away from real life in the way that real life can feel so large sometimes and not helpful. There's a Buddhist nun, Pema Chodron. I don't know if you know her, but one of her teachings are just beautiful, full of kindness. One of her famous quotes is, "You are the sky, everything else is just the weather." And that's talking to the impermanence of any particular situation, that things do change, but you're the constant. And I find that sometimes it's really hard to get past that in day-to-day life, work life, family life, all that sort of stuff. And all of that disappears, and you can just be your true you when you're doing art, I think. Oh, you're doing the Raven class. So that's lovely, Nicola. I'm glad that it's you're finding that helpful too. So it's brand new. It's just opened up, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some beautiful ravens in my feed, and hearing what you all think of the class. It's I know I probably bang on about it a bit, but it's a profound experience that I didn't expect to have. I'm just laying a little tiny bit of nougat in amongst the shadows here. It was unexpected and completely and utterly welcome. And it's a beautiful aspect of it, and I can't talk about it enough because it's so it feels so important to me. And I came back to art after being really burnt out in an academic and professional career, and it has become such a gift. It's become my world again now. It was something that I was always going to do when I grew up, when I was a teenager, and then I got roped into doing other things, as you do, as life is wont to do with us. I'm just looking around for little bits of this brown that I might want to add in. And so coming back to it was just such a gift. And being part of such a beautiful community of supporting artists and art lovers is so beautiful too. And I just want to share all that. I want to empower others to feel that same way. I think that we miss out so much otherwise. Okay, there's something missing up here. I just haven't decided what it is yet, so I keep coming back in and adding just a little bit of brown to see if that makes a difference. And it's getting there. Okay. Which way will we go first? I don't know whether to finish off here, go back up here. There's just so many things that we could do. It's very exciting. I think I'll head upwards. So I'm going to take Cold Grey 1, and I'm going to go over, we did a little bit of Warm Grey 1 there, I'm going to go over that and come up with some cold up this way. There's a good mix again of those colds and warms together. Just working softly. I know I'm terrible when it comes to classes myself too. I have a whole bunch of classes that I've started and not finished, but you know what, I think that's lovely too, because when you have some time, when you're looking for something to do, you've got a plethora of choices to wet your whistle, to inspire you. I think that's really nice. I think that art making, absolutely, Nicola, needs to be given much more value than it is given. I think we can take personal value from it. That's really powerful. But in our society, for some reason, it's not frowned upon, and perhaps it's changing a little bit too, but it's not deemed an essential service, for example, and it absolutely is an essential service, both for the artist who's doing it, for the essentially therapy it provides, but also because we need as much beauty in the world, whatever that looks like, as long as it's created with intention and heart, passion, joy. intention is my big thing, because it can be, you know, art that has something to say that's, you know, not all bunnies and roses, and it's of no less value. It's just as important. It can be abstract, it can be realistic, it can be everything in between. But art is how we get through a day. I mean, you can't... all television programs are art, right? So, you know, you wouldn't want to be without those. I'm trying to think what colour I want there, because it's quite an odd colour. I'm just going to go up one in the cold grey. So I've got cold grey 2. Yeah, it's not just the great artists, you know, the Caravaggios, Renoirs, etc. They're important. It's the Banksys and the everyday artists. It's all of you guys, you know, like, that makes the world a better place. And I'm not saying that in a glib way. I honestly believe it, because the energy that you put out when you create art with heart, with intention and passion, is such positive energy, you know, and to share that, it's a huge act of vulnerability to share it. But yeah, just truly, I'd honestly believe it makes the world a better place. If more people made art instead of watching television or scrolling social media, both of which I'm guilty of, by the way. Although sometimes you need to do that, you know, I think that's just as important sometimes too. But if more people did some sort of creative endeavour, I think that, you know, we would have a lot more kindness towards ourselves, but also towards others. Because your values can't help but change when you manifest something with your own 2 hands, you know, and the excitement of that. I'm just adding some little grey shadows around. I know they look kind of odd at the moment, but they're by themselves, so they need to have accompanying values. So Drawn to Fairy was my first ever class, and that was a year ago. This, like now in November. I'm so proud of that. I had no idea what to expect. I was learning on the go, and it feels so much longer than a year ago now. Yeah, I'm really proud of that. I really enjoyed learning as I went with it too. Starting to look a little more light and shadow there. Sitting back, having a good look. What I need to do. I need some more depth in the greys. That's still where I'm at here. So I've got warm grey 3 now. This, the feathers here are quite difficult because you've got some feathers going this way, some feathers going this way, some down this way, and then the rest curling up and around. So just don't feel like you've got to put too much detail in there. Just pick and choose bits and pieces. Well, there's nothing wrong with doors. I think that's lovely. Oh, there's a female colour. But I know know what you mean. I was sitting on the lounge the other night, I drew a meerkat just in a single pencil, using a single colour pencil, the Tuscan red, which I used in that class quite a bit because I love it, in the colorés, just as a bit of, you know, mindless therapy while I was watching television. And I don't know what it was, but it's not a meerkat, I can tell you. There used to be a TV ad here in the 70s and 80s when I was, or 80s when I was growing up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was in the 70s, but I wouldn't remember that. Called Norm. I can't think if he had a last name or not. And now I'm not going to remember what the name of the ad was, but I can see he's oh, what was the name of the ad? Essentially, it was put out by the government to try and get people to exercise more, to have a go, you know, do things. And he was like a big potato slouch, couch potato slouch sort of guy. And that's what this meerkat looks like. Made me laugh anyway. So there's nothing wrong with it turning out different to what you first expected. Sometimes that brings a little bit of joy anyway. Okay. So these crisscrossy feathers here. Pretty funny thinking about that ad now. Sometimes I feel really old when I think about things like that. Back when we used to only have, what, 3 channels or something on television here in Australia. But you always knew it was going to be on. This comes up. Just looking here. No, that's the top. That's alright. Just adding little lines. So, I mean, this sort of drawing is a slow process. But, you know, the rewards are that you get to spend time with your subject. And it does get there eventually. I know, working on those cormorant wings this week, I was thinking, oh my god, I'm never going to get through these wings. They're taking forever. But, you know, you do little pieces at a time, and then suddenly it's done. And that's something I have to remind myself about too, is that worrying about it and not doing anything is not going to get it done. Worrying about it and actually just putting an hour in or whatever, and it adds up. What do you think? Alright, let's get a little bit of the colour going in over the top here. So I'll put the 40 pencils I have in my hand down and just pick up one, which will be a warm grey one, to get a base down. Oh, I just love it when I feel like they're participating. There's a little creature on the page here. So I've put the warm grey one in that ruffle around the face there, and I'm just coming out with a little bit more over the top here. And I'm going to grab good old burnt ochre and just the same as what we did over here. Bring bits of orange in. I think I'm going to get a bit of ivory too. Let's put a little bit of this in. So bringing my pencil down and into the feathers down in this way so that I've got pencil strokes coming in as well as out, and get that tapering sort of texture up and into and out of these little white face feathers. Looks like he's got a unibrow. He, she. Ivory. That's what I should do today, is I should go to the art shop, which is about a half-an-hour drive, and get some more pencil extenders, because I've only got 2 and they're both being used at the moment, but some of them are getting close to needing more, so. Going over this roughly a bit with the ivory. Just give it a little bit more depth and a yellowy tinge to the base layer. And I think that we came back and did that over this side. Yeah, I can see it in there. It's only subtle, but it does make a difference. I may just come back in over the top here. So I'm leaving a little gap of non-yellow, non-ivory on the top where there's sort of that lighter tips of the feathers that are sort of picked up by the sun. Just a little bit. So we've got burnt ochre, ivory, we've just got the base layer of the warm grey one and then some more ivory over the top there. I want a brown, but I like, actually I think I would like a brown ochre. So the yellowy brown, just sharpen the very tip of that. And come in here. There's quite a dark little spot just here. Spot of interest there. It's actually quite a bit darker on this side, up the top. Okay, I'm going to take some dark Naples yellow and lay a little layer of that over the top of the ivory, just like a glaze, a very light layer. something darker. I think I'm going to take nougat. Very lightly. In some of these darker areas here. Note that the feathers sort of curl up and around too. Thanks, Louise. Thanks for coming. It's not lovely to have you all come and scribble. I'm going to keep going for another, probably 15 minutes or so. And then I'm going to be in need of a cup of tea. But as is wont to happen, I'm now absorbed in this owl. I'm wanting to keep going with her too. A little bit of the burnt ochre again. I'm coming in over the top of the dark Naples yellow. I'm just trying to establish some values around those little ruffly feathers so that I can ensure I'm getting the right values, the right tones for it. There's not a lot of really highlighted area above here. There is more as it comes around. Look at all those beautiful, this sort of feathery thing happening. When I've been working on these auction pieces, because I actually do record them just with my webcam as I'm working on them, but they're not recorded as a lesson for Patreon or class or anything. But I listen to an audiobook. And I've been listening to a book called Strange the Dreamer. And I don't know, who's it by? Isn't it terrible? I don't know who it's by. Laini Taylor, and I'm so enjoying it. It's kind of hard to describe, but I'm looking forward to getting back to listening to it today. It's a fantasy, yeah, it's a fantasy book, but there's some parallels to sort of more medieval, earlier times too. But the characters are really exciting. This is the second book in a row I've listened to that involves a lot of, books and libraries and stuff. And I really, really enjoy those sorts of books. And the other thing that I tend to listen to while I'm working, I'm just going over that with the ivory just to soften it all a little bit, podcasts. So one that I can really recommend if you like fairy tales and stuff is called Grim Tales. Grim Tales? Am I saying that? And it's not the right thing. I think. Double check. Grim Reading. Grim Reading. Grim Tales. Grim Reading. And it's two British fellows, who read a Brothers Grimm tale and then sort of analyse it, and it's hilarious. It makes me laugh so hard sometimes. If I'm doing bookkeeping at work, sometimes I'll have it on in my headphones just to have something else going on in the background, and there's been times where I've had to stop it because I can't stop laughing. So I really, really recommend that one if you want to have a good giggle. Plus, get to listen to some grim fairy tales as well. And you can get that on any of your podcast apps. I have warm grey too here, just adding a little bit of warmth to some of these areas. So yeah, I'm interested to know, do you listen to things as you create art? Do you listen to music? Or do you like it to be nice and quiet? I think there's room for both in different aspects of the work that you do and different times. Like when I'm planning a composition, for example, I can't listen to a podcast or a book. I have to listen to music because the words influence what I'm thinking about, what I'm doing as far as creating a composition. So in that aspect, I have to have either music or silence. But otherwise, I really enjoy listening to a book at the same time, and I get to be completely immersed in some sort of other world at the same time as I'm immersed in drawing something amazing and otherly. I just got into audiobooks over lockdown. You like a nice murder? Yeah, there's nothing quite like a nice murder. I think that they're fantastic. How good are audiobooks? Once upon a time that was the whole, you had to purchase CDs. I've got Warm Grey 1 here. I'm just going over the top of her noggin here. And it was something that, you only did if you had, you were visually impaired or something. You had books otherwise. But oh my goodness. Audiobooks are the best. And I do use Audible, which is, the Amazon product. But I just think that, it's opened up so many worlds to me. I have a half an hour drive to work and from work, obviously. So in that period, I always listen to audiobooks, unless a book runs out in the middle of my commute, and then it's back to music. But I have read in inverted commas so many more books now because I don't have time. I honestly don't have time at the moment to pick up a book to read. And this way I don't miss out because I love books. Oh my goodness. You should see my house. Honest to goodness, every single wall is covered in books. The exception is the laundry. And the kitchen doesn't have any because I have a great big cupboard next to the kitchen that's full of cookbooks. So otherwise, every single room has books in it. I just adore them. I think they're the best things ever. And all sorts of genres too. I've always quite liked the fantasy sci-fi thing, but one of my favourite authors is Uncle Steve, Stephen King. And I got into him, I picked up with my first Stephen King book when I was in year 5. So I was, 9. I had a fantastic librarian in, we call that primary school, so once upon a time you used to have infant schools, kindergarten 1 and 2, and then primary schools 3, 4, 5, 6. And yeah, I had a fantastic librarian there, and I was reading much above my level, and she was really good at encouraging me to find different books, and she would actually bring books down from the high school for me to read because I got obsessed with Stephen King and Ray Bradbury. Yeah, I have a fondness for Stephen King. I just finished listening to his new one, The Institute, so if you do like to have a little bit of fantasy with your sort of horror and gore, I guess, it was really good. It wasn't really horrendous. Not like his really old books. He's sort of softened in his old age, Uncle Steve. But it was really well written. It was a good follow on from something like Firestarter, which was in the 70s. I love that book. So that was really good. But yeah, I think that audiobooks are awesome. Yeah, so I've got my little burnt ochre. I'm just going to add a little glaze of that to the top of the head, and then I'll probably call it a morning because my belly's telling me I need breakfast. And I know I need a cup of tea because I've only had 2 this morning. Oh my goodness. And then I'm going to go and pick out some 70th birthday decorations for my mum's party. And then I'm going to get started on my other piece for the auction. Well, I'll quickly show you the cormorant. Oh, I'm really pleased with what we got done today. Just take it off. So you're seeing this before anybody else this morning, because I haven't. She hasn't had a glamour shot yet. Just finished the Midnight Library. Midnight Library, what? Who's that by? Nicola? I like the sound of it. We'll come up here. So there's my cormorant with her key and lock. So that's going to be up for the Changeling auction. Yeah, there's lots of ivory, dark ivory and cold greys in that one, and a little splash of red. But yeah, I really enjoyed her. I live close to the ocean, so I see cormorants, we call these ones shags, all the time. And I've never really sat and observed how beautiful they are. This is actually on Stonehenge paper, which I haven't used before, and I quite like it. It's actually a little bit darker in colour than the Fabriano, amazingly, and I think it's actually a little bit smoother. I did have a bit of trouble getting as many layers as I usually do on the Fabriano down, but yeah, so that's the cormorant, and then this is the beginning of the owl. That I'm going to be working on today. So I've got her light values down. This is the anthracite paper. See how dark it is? Ooh, it's so... Oh, doesn't she look nice with dark around her, actually? Yeah, that's good. Alright, that's a good indication for the other barn owl I want to work on for a commission. But Matt Haig, it's not a murder though. Good, okay. So I'll look that one up. I know I should actually start a list on my website of all the books that I adore, because I like to shout them from the rooftops. I really enjoyed The Library of the Unwritten. I just finished that one. That was AJ Hackworth, and I know that there's one that's on after that. So after I finish this Strange the Dreamer, I'm going to read that one, listen to that one. But I also loved the 2 books by Erin Morgenstern. There's The Night Circus and The Starless Sea. And The Starless Sea is all full-on library. It's just brilliant. I loved it. I'd love to illustrate something like that. That would be amazing. Anyway, my loves, I shall be off. It's 8:20 in the morning here now. It's still very grey out, so I guess we are going to get those storms. I'm going to have a cup of tea, peppermint, I believe, a bit of toast, Vegemite. Got to have Vegemite. It gets me through the day. But it was really lovely to be here with you again. I think we did a fantastic job of getting more of this little face done, and we'll make it another date next Friday if you're up for it. See what we can get finished next Friday. I reckon we've got maybe 2 more for her face, and then we'll decide what to do as far as the body goes. We might have to have an extended session or something, or do some homework, or I'm not really sure. But I really like this this time with you, so I think we'll continue this, and we'll have to maybe have a poll as to what sort of animal we do after this one. But have a fantastic day, fantastic weekend, and look after yourselves, be kind to yourselves, because you're all beautiful and you're amazing and you're doing wonderful things, and I really look forward to seeing you again next week. So be well.